Hey everybody, welcome back to A Better Computer. My name is Matt, and in today's video we're going to be taking a quick look at shooting ProRAW on the brand new iPhone 14 Pro. This is the Max, but it's the same on the normal Pro as well. And let's just take a look at some photos I took over my first weekend with the phone to see kind of what you can get. The big exciting thing with ProRAW this year is that in ProRAW, when you're capturing in ProRAW in the stock camera app, you can capture 48 megapixel images. So that's what I wanted to play around with because that's a tangible benefit to shooting in RAW that you didn't really get last year. So here's a photo that I took of my dog just on our walk in the morning. And this is at 48 megapixels. So the photo itself looks, I think, pretty decent. It's not a masterpiece, but it looks pretty decent. And if I zoom in to 100%, you can see there's quite a bit of detail captured on him. The depth of field is actually really quite shallow. That's the thing I'm noticing more on the latest iPhones. We saw this last year as well, and we're seeing it even more this year, that the natural depth of field you can get from the wide camera especially is pretty significant. So it's a ton of data. 48 megapixels is a ton of data for any camera. So to have it on a phone and to have it actually look really good, like I think this is actually a really high quality image. Like I suspect people could complain about specific things if they wanted, but honestly, this is way better than you would expect from a smartphone even a couple years ago. So this is, I think, really awesome. I know people are interested in the size of these files. This one is an 83 megabyte RAW file. You can see the resolution right there, 8064 by 6048, which is exactly 4 times the number of pixels that the 12 megapixel photos we're used to from the iPhone have. And again, I took a few pictures. Here's of my desk, and you can again see kind of, again, this is on the wide. It focused around here, and you can see that that's got plenty of detail. You can see like back here, kind of like when you're shooting with a DSLR or whatever, wide open, mirrorless camera wide open, the depth of field isn't that long, and this camera back here is out of focus. Yeah, so this worked pretty decently. Here's another picture of just him, and again, you can just zoom in and see tons of detail is captured. But it's not just still pictures. You can take action shots. So this is me kind of running, jogging next to him as he's running, and you can see we captured motion. If we kind of pull up this, it was 1/5000th of a second at 1.8 ISO 100. So pretty good. It was a sunny day, obviously, so light was captured pretty easily. But yeah, so you can still capture action shots. One thing that I'll try to show on screen now is that there is a significant delay when shooting in this 48 megapixel RAW mode. When you snap the photo, it doesn't take it immediately, I've noticed, and it actually stops you from taking another photo for a couple seconds. So I'm not sure exactly when in there it's actually capturing this, but you can capture motion, but you're not gonna be able to time it as well as you normally can when taking 12 megapixel standard photos. But again, you can take action shots. The quality is still there if you'd like. Let's get in here and compare some of these photos though. So this one on the left, I believe, yeah, this is the 12 megapixels. So this was just taken in the standard non-RAW JPEG format, and this was taken a second later with the RAW format. So this zoomed in way more. Let me go ahead and zoom out a little there. Where's a good spot? Let's just select here where this kind of branch is. If we switch over to here and try to zoom these into the same amount, that's about right. It's not quite there. And this kind of gives you an idea for the difference. So again, I've tried to not process these. This one is the JPEG, of course, and has Apple's normal processing done to it, which includes some sharpening and stuff. This is the RAW photo, which is a little more raw, I guess, for lack of a better word. But you can see this is a little softer. The sharpening isn't applied kind of the same way it is on this one. But you can kind of see there is more detail, and I can't zoom these to exactly the same size, unfortunately, which is kind of annoying. Or maybe that's it. But you can kind of see the difference between 12 megapixels right here and 48 megapixels here. So again, when you are just like just full on, just looking at them at this size, there's not a lot of difference. I think the benefit you get from 48 megapixels is that extreme detail when you need it, or when you want it, I should say. So like, let's go to a different spot. Let's go kind of further down the path. If we go over here, I mean, you can see there's a significant amount of additional information here that's just kind of pixels over on this side. But is that important when you're looking at it fully zoomed out? maybe not, right? Like, what's the difference between these two photos? Without me telling you, can you even tell which is which? Yeah. If you're looking at these things only on a phone, only at full screen, then it's probably not a big deal. But yeah, I appreciate the extra detail in some cases, right? Like, I like the fact that I could take this photo, I could go into crop mode. Let me go ahead and crop it down, like all the way down to there, hit enter. And that's a usable photo, right? Like, that is still a very usable photo that I could share on social media. I could share wherever I wanted. And like, there's still like a good amount of detail. If I go to 100%, obviously it's not quite the massive resolution that it was before, but I have all of this information that is available to me. I could take a picture of just my shadow. I could take a picture of like a close-up on his collar, right? Like, we're cropping in a ton here, and you can still read Boots and Barkley, right? Like, you can still read what's going on there. Like, the detail that's in these photos is pretty awesome. Like, 48 megapixels is serious, and it's serious for real cameras. Like, let me grab it over here. This is the Canon EOS R6. It is a $3,000 mirrorless camera plus lenses. This shoots 20 megapixels. So 48 megapixels is a ton of data to work with. And megapixels doesn't equal quality, but it gives you more flexibility, which I think is awesome with these new phones. A couple quick things before we wrap up for today. When you import your photos into your editor of choice, in this case Lightroom, they may look super dark. So the way that these are shot, basically they're exposed for highlights and all your shadows are super low. In Lightroom, you can go over to the profile, and instead of using Apple embedded color profile, choose Apple Pro Raw, and that's going to go ahead and actually normalize the exposure to kind of what you're expecting. And at this point, you could start making your adjustments to like white balance and exposure and colors and all the things that you would normally do to a photo to make it look how you want. But if it looks super dark out of the box, switch your profile to Apple Pro Raw. Hopefully Lightroom will kind of update to automatically apply that in the future, but that's kind of what you have to do today. Another detail, I was curious what would happen in night mode. So you can take raw photos in the night mode in the camera. This is not a good photo. I just basically took it on my deck or on my patio last night to just kind of see what I could do. Again, just terrible stuff here. But if I look at the info, it's actually only at 12 megapixels. So even though I shot it in Pro Raw, like with RAW enabled, it does only capture at 12 megapixels in night mode. It does not do 48 megapixels. I thought that'd be super cool if it did, but it doesn't. Also, here's a photo I took in Pro Raw of macro shots. So this is just on a window, some beads of glass or beads of water on a window, a classic macro shot. I wanted to see what this would do. Obviously, this is using the macro lens, or the ultra wide lens, I should say. And so that's not a 48 megapixel sensor. That's only at 12 megapixels. So obviously be aware that your macro shots aren't going to be 48 megapixels, nor are your night mode photos, unless something changes in an update. But that's what I saw when I did my testing. Make sure you set the Apple Pro Raw profile to give yourself a better starting point. And yeah, we kind of looked at the detail difference. You can do action shots, but it's hard to time the capture with exactly the moment that you're trying to capture, and you certainly can't do a burst. It's really take one shot, wait a few seconds, take another shot, wait a few seconds. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think the quality is pretty darn impressive. I don't think it's something you should have on all the time. It's not practical to use for every single photo. I think you should still use 12 megapixels for basically everything. Don't shoot in RAW on your iPhone. But if you do shoot in RAW on your iPhone, this is a really big advantage that you get that you didn't have on the previous models. So yeah, hopefully that was an interesting first look and gives you some helpful tips to using the new feature. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.